All right, good evening. Good evening. I want to call to order this regular meeting of the Carabell City Commission. It's Thursday, January 6, 2022. 6 p.m. This meeting is being conducted at the Carabell City Hall Chambers, and we will open with a prayer by Commissioner Millender, and then I will lead the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you again for a most glorious day that you have given us today. It's been a beautiful day. We ask for your will and your hand to hold upon us tonight as we work for the benefit and the welfare of our gracious city. And in your wonderful name we pray for all blessings. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Happy New Year. It's good to see everyone and welcome. Thank you for silencing your phones. Anyone, as I mentioned before, wishing to speak during public comment or during the discussion session portion of our agenda items, just complete a speaker card and pass it up here to Ms. Keisha or Ms. Courtney. All public comments are kept to a maximum of 3 minutes with a one-time visit to the podium. And no loud outbursts, please, from the audience. All right. We'll move forward to the consent agenda, which is the December 2nd, 2021 regular meeting minutes and our attorney's invoices. Did everyone have a chance to review those minutes and invoices? And
motion to approve.
All right, and we have that motion by Commissioner Millender and second by Commissioner Mathis. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. And now we have our commissioner reports. And Commissioner Brown, do you have anything for us this evening?
I do.
Okay.
I hope everyone had a filling Christmas and wonderful New Year. We had another successful event last month at Holiday on the Harbor in the Boat Parade of Lights, where our own Mr. Charlie Painter from our Water and Sewer Department took home first place in the boat show and best in show. And thank you to the Carabell Chamber of Commerce for bringing us all together for such a fun event. Also, I wanted to address something from the last meeting. At the last commission meeting, I requested an agenda item to discuss hiring a part-time person to aid in the building and code enforcement departments. Before the commission could discuss the item, I was accused of overstepping and undermining the board and our staff, which I found dictatorial and hypocritical. After speaking with our city attorney, I was told that I in no way undermined the chain of command. I spoke with our administrator as well as our city clerk on multiple occasions to gather information to bring to the commission regarding this proposed position, leaving neither out of the loop. I spoke to our administrator and clerk in the same way that our mayor commissioner asked the city clerk approximately 15 questions regarding her present duties and how the proposed position would aid with her duties. At no point did I give direction to any individual employee other than to request this item be on the agenda for discussion. As the mayor commissioner has stated, the city office needs assistance filling roles in the office when other full-time staff is absent. This includes not only water and sewer, but we've also all agreed that our city clerk is overloaded and can use assistance with the building department with the suggested 4 hours a week data entry and the code enforcement department with record keeping. The commission does not need to give authority to consult with a city employee to find out how we can help their department run more efficiently. I believe each of us individually met or spoke in private with the police chief before the November meeting when we were discussing the proposed community policing, code enforcement, animal control, building department, boat ramp attendant position. As a commissioner, it is imperative to have staff that can act as a sounding board for new ideas or approaches and for problem solving, since doing the same with another commissioner would be illegal for the Sunshine Law. We're all elected individually, by the citizens of Carabell to do what's in the best interest of the city as a whole. This is the reason for having these meetings, to communicate our city's needs and find ways to fulfill them. Each of us sitting up here has one equal independent vote. Not one elected member of this board has any more authority than the next. We were elected to serve the betterment of the city, and it's our duty to work together respectfully in public to reach that goal. Thank you.
And anything else, Commissioner Brown?
That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your comments, and I will take it in under advisement. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Allen isn't here, under the weather. Commissioner Mathis?
I have nothing.
Okay, Commissioner Millender?
No report.
Okay, and I do have a report this evening, as usual. And I want to report that on December the 8th and 9th, I attended the annual Florida Rural Economic Development Summit, where 30 rural counties were represented. I had the opportunity to speak with Senator Osley, Roy Baker, Kim Bodine, Mark Cruz, Danny Collins, members of the ARPC, and many others. The summit focused on relevant issues affecting rural economic growth and development, the upcoming $1.2 trillion federal infrastructure bill, and Governor DeSantis's $105 million proposal for rural infrastructure. Presentations included economic development strategies, job creation, rural transportation, incentives for private investment, and affordable workforce housing. And I want to say on a side note, Governor DeSantis's $105 million proposal for rural county infrastructure in fiscal year 2022 and 2023 is a huge opportunity for the 30 rural counties in Florida, and that includes the cities as well. And usually the rural infrastructure budget is only about $5 million for the entire state of Florida. So this is a $105 million proposal for the next year's budget in the state. And then on December the 11th, as Commissioner Brown mentioned, the Carabell Chamber of Commerce sponsored another great holiday on the harbor and boat parade of lights event. And the parade and fireworks were really over the top this year. The fireworks, the parade, everything. And I received numerous comments about the fireworks, and thank you so much for setting that up. And thank you also to the Chamber and the volunteers for their hard work organizing this annual event. And then on December the 14th, I met Josh Gable here at City Hall. He's the regional director for the U.S. Senator Rubio. And I asked how our city will access its fair share of the $1.2 trillion federal infrastructure funding. Josh reached out to Senator Rubio's Washington, D.C. based director, who will contact Courtney when the U.S. Treasury releases the final rule on eligibility and guidelines. And qualifying projects would include stormwater infrastructure for the city and airport, and roadway improvements, septic to sewer projects, and potable water extension, and similar projects like that along those lines. And also, Courtney, I don't know if you received the email today from Josh that the U.S. Treasury has released the final rule on the American Rescue. And there's a webinar, but then he came back and said that webinar is for congressional seats and aides, not for regular folks like us. But they have released the final rule, so we'll soon be able to move forward on that. Last month, I requested all department superintendents to present monthly department reports for the city commission meetings, and we received them. Did all the commissioners receive their reports? Okay. These reports are also available to the public upon request. And questions and comments regarding these reports can be taken up under the administrator's report during this meeting. And this is to enable all the commissioners to receive the same information about the departments at the same time. And certainly if there's an emergency or anything, our city administrator will advise us on, on anything that we might need to know about what's going on in the departments. And so with that, and because all City of Carabell staff, all the staff have clearly defined job descriptions and responsibilities, including the city administrator, who per the city charter is the manager of city staff, I am now hereby canceling any and all past designation of commissioner liaison to department heads and departments. Attorney Hartman and I have diligently researched the city charter, which governs this commission's own duties. The charter governs this commission's duties and responsibilities to the city. And by searching through that charter, we learned there is no required demand, or there's no required defined requirement in the city charter that commissioners should be assigned as liaison to various city department heads or departments, as has been traditionally done. Per city charter, the city of Carabell operates under the commission manager form of government. And a lot of the cities call it council manager form of government. But commission is an old-fashioned word. I learned in one of those Florida League of Cities training, and we use commission. And I've got some brochures here from the International City Council Management Association, and there's one enough for the attorney too, of government. That it clearly outlines what the commission or council management form of government is in layman's terms. And it even has an organizational chart, and it's an excellent educational tool to help the public understand Carabell's government. And it could even be posted on the website. I'm going to post it on my Facebook page. And it clearly states in the charter in section 9, under definition of terms, the commissioner manager plan, and we have an appointed city administrator, and in the charter, city administrator is also the city manager. Those terms are interchangeable, and so this is how we're moving into the 20th century. We're almost a quarter into the 20th century. And we operate a lot of times on old traditions, and that is not our form of government. It was done many years ago, and once a manager was hired back in the mid-2000s, that removed that form of government that the city had, and we do now have the commissioner or council management form of government. And so finally, I just want to remind the commissioners and myself that because it's imperative that city staff devote their work time to responsibilities they have been given on behalf of the public we serve, I'm asking that future interactions by commissioners and city staff be reduced to, just a few minutes a week. Of course, if you've got something that you need to come in with, make an appointment with Courtney, make an appointment with a department head if you feel like there's something you need to discuss. But as our city's demographics change and our population grows, more and more is being expected of staff each day, and lengthy social visits still valuable, important work time from our staff members. So I'm asking for your full cooperation and support in this important request of our city staff. And certainly, like I mentioned before, if there's an emergency, or if we want to make an appointment, or if we need to call our city administrator, have a meeting. In fact, I had a meeting with her and someone that works for the city mid-month that we'll talk about at our CRA meeting. And there's no problem with that, but just let's try to let staff do their duties and do what they're hired for. And so with that, we will move on to the city attorney's report, and Mr. Pasquillo is in for Attorney Hartman this evening.
He had three things on the city attorney's report. First, regarding Ryan Drive and lowering the speed limit.
If you would speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Is that better? The three things, first was Ryan Drive and lowering the speed limit. He advised he spoke with Michael Schuler, who's the county attorney for Franklin County. The county's advised that the city has the authority to reduce the speed limit on Ryan Drive. He was requesting that Courtney could speak with Michael Moran over at the county about putting the new speed limit sign up. Second was the ethics letter that was requested. He circulated a draft of that regarding the CRA appointment of a board member. And then finally was the New River Landing agenda item. The New River Landing individuals have requested an extension through June the 15th of 2022. They anticipate being fully funded by mid-March. And then they will close on the property and begin the project, which is slated to be single-family homes.
Okay, then, he told me this morning that we would need to take action on whether or not we wanted to, reduce the Ryan Drive speed limit.
That it would require a vote, yes, it would
Yes,
require a vote.
we would take action on that. Do y'all have questions? Do you want to, what do you think?
I have a comment.
Okay. And if you'll speak into the microphone, please, sir, so that at least Mr. Hartman can hear you.
I know it was mentioned at a meeting or two back, and I've driven Ryan Drive a couple times purposely at the speed limit that was suggested. And there is a portion of Ryan Drive that I think that's way too low. That's just my opinion. I think enforcement is what is the action that's most appropriate for Ryan Drive, for our law enforcement to work it. But I've driven from Three Rivers Road, if you will, to the foot of the bridge, vice versa, back and forth. And I think that's entirely too low. I think if we reduce it to 25, we're still gonna have the same people driving the same speed that they're currently driving unless law enforcement works it. I could see reducing it in the residential area when you get up to around the Baptist church. I could see considering it. But if we consider, there again, I go back to law enforcement. I mean, you know, if we say it's 15, 20, 25, 35, it's still gonna have to be regulated and the law enforcement's gonna have to work it. But I personally think that speed limit of 25 on Ryan Drive is just absolute. I don't think nobody's gonna follow it.
Probably not.
And I just think that's entirely too low from Three Rivers Road up to the bridge. And I do understand the concern of people that live on the end of Ryan Drive into the city. But let's take 12th Street, for example, right out here. That speed limit. I live right here.
And what is that speed limit?
It's supposed to be on a back street. We don't have an officer here, do we?
No.
But I think that's a 25 mile an
I do
hour
too.
speed limit on the back road like that right there. But they don't drive 25.
No.
No. And it's just a small stretch of road. And I just used that as an example because I live right here. But anyway, looking at Ryan Drive, I think the speed limit that was suggested is just too low, and we're going to have to regulate it with law enforcement. That's just my opinion.
Now, and I did, County Commissioner Ward had brought this up at first, and then I reported it. And then the two attorneys have discussed it.
Correct.
And Commissioner Ward felt, and I did too, we discussed the fact that if it was 25, and I guess the officers like to let them go, 5 miles over before they're gonna stop and give a warning or citation. And that if it was 25, then people would be driving 30 or 35. And now people are driving 40, 45, and even faster than that over there at the 35 mile. And I do understand it's a matter of enforcement as well. But, so, right at this point, that you don't feel like it's necessary at this point or not?
Well, again, I do understand the concern, but I guess I'll give another example. The chief and I had a conversation, and we've talked about it here as a council, and which I'm no longer the police commissioner because you just suspended all those.
But there's you can certainly meet with Courtney and discuss it.
I will, and I do. But Anyway, we were receiving a lot of complaints on 67, and they were justifiable complaints, I feel like. Concerns more instead of complaints. And I know the chief has been aggressively working his staff has been aggressively working 67. And I've received a lot of compliments about their working on 67.
Well, good.
It has
glad.
helped. It's not stopped it, but it has helped quite a bit. And I also asked them to work Ryan Drive, so I haven't had any response back on Ryan Drive. But I know they were working Ryan Drive and 67 fairly aggressively. They can't just quit everything.
Oh, no.
But they were working those pretty aggressively. Everyone probably saw the sign. It was on 67 that showed you your speed and the blue lights flashing. But anyway, it's helped quite a bit. And again, I'm not being anti, but I've driven that. If you drive Ryan Drive at 25 miles an hour, nobody's gonna follow that.
And I want to say I have noticed the truck traffic has really reduced.
Yeah.
It has, the through truck. Commissioner Mathis, what do you think? You travel Ryan Drive a lot.
I think he summed it up as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, all right. And Commissioner Brown, do you ever go out that way?
I do sometimes. I mean, I thought 35 was fine. I mean, if anything, just in the residential area, if it's a potential to change it there, like it is on the other streets in that area, but the whole thing being 25 seems a little much.
Okay, all right. Do we want to make a motion or just say that we don't want to take action at this time? How do we feel about that? I think it would probably be best to say that we don't want to take action.
I'll make a motion that we don't take any action on the Ryan Drive
Okay.
speed limit at this time.
Okay, good.
I'll second.
Okay, and that's by Mr. Millender, Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Brown, and no action at this time. And is there any further discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Yes, ma'am, if you just come to the podium. And just tell us who you are for the record.
Sharon Glaze, live
Okay.
on Bragdon Street off
Okay.
of Ryan Drive. It has not been worked aggressively. The little sign that everybody goes, oh, a little sign, and they just keep going, that happens. As far as I'm on that road just about every day, I've seen one police officer, one sheriff sitting on the side of the road. That's the only time there's been enforcement there. And I think if you did have enforcement there, you have to have some kind of order. You can't possibly think that we can go on in Carabell with no order and with no restrictions on everybody. And we'll get to that later in the conversation, but it is a problem on Ryan Drive. I'm part of the problem. I zip down there. I don't even know what the speed limit is. I fly. If they were gonna get somebody, I'd be it. Thank you very much.
Careful. Okay, well, Ms. Courtney, we want to, certainly let the chief know, that we need to concentrate on Ryan Drive.
Okay, and let me respond. I do appreciate Ms. Glaze's response, but for her information. And Ms. Glaze, I kind of feel the same way because sometimes I'll travel those two roads or any of the roads and I don't see an officer. But then I'll have a conversation with the chief and he can show me where that they have written 5 tickets, stopped 12 vehicles, give them warnings. So they're actively working it. But the point I'm trying to make is I myself, when I drive down 67 or Ryan Drive, I'm only there for a few minutes and I'm gone. That officer may be working something else. So 24 hours of that day, there's no telling how long that officer's been there that I didn't see him. So anyway,
and that's
but
true.
the point I was trying to make is not an argumentative thing, but let you know that they are stopping vehicles and they are writing some citations and giving some warnings. So they're doing their job.
I get lucky then, I guess. I don't be that lucky anymore.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, and thank you. And so we have any further discussion? All right, then, the motion was to take no action at this time regarding the change in the speed limit there on Ryan Drive. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. And then the next item was the ethics opinion letter. Mr. Hartman had circulated that out to all the commissioners. Did the commissioners have an opportunity to review that? And is that fine for that to be submitted? I believe Mr. Hartman, well, I know he did tell me this morning that he was going to make one addition to that letter under, he was going to add a number 6 and say something like Carabell Community Redevelopment Agency plan is attached. He was going to attach the plan to this letter. Do y'all have, can Mr. Hartman, can you hear us? Okay, yes, all right.
Number 7, because that was an additional document that was reviewed. CRA plan, so just to include that for reference.
Okay, and y'all can, do you have any other things? Is that okay then, that letter for him to submit?
Actually, I thought it was already submitted when I read through it.
Okay,
I thought it was just a-
all right, so Mr. Hartman, I believe it's ready to roll, okay?
Great.
Okay, and then, Mr. Hartman, did you hear anything from regarding the transfer agreement with the school board for the cemetery land?
Yes, I'm told by Ms. Duncan, the board attorney, that she's put it right at the top of her list, and I'm going to try to get us squared away on that so that we can do what we need to do to have additional cemetery plots.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I did mention to Mr. Hartman that we are tentatively scheduling a workshop tonight, and if we had to have a special meeting regarding this transfer agreement before or after the workshop, we might do that because we've got only eight plots left, and we need to move forward if we can.
Yeah, and just food for thought, Mayor, since you touched that subject for the rest of the commissioners. I think we need to look at the pricing of the plots and may consider increasing. So just food for thought.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay. All right then, I think that's all for the city attorney's report. Is there any, does the commissioners have questions or anything like that? Okay.
Do we need to take action on New River Landing?
That's an agenda item,
Oh, okay.
number 5. Okay, all right.
That's right, we added that.
Thank you, Mr. Hartman. Thank you, Mr. Pasquillo. Okay, so now we're going to move to the city administrator's report.
Commissioner Allen's not here tonight, but last month Commissioner Allen reported under his report that he had obtained some information from a citizen that a request had been submitted to the State Division of Historical Resources to have the downtown area that was previously proposed for a historic district added to the National Historic Register. I called and spoke with Mr. Andrew Weber, preservationist with the Division of Historical Resources, and found out that the request was submitted by Carabell Historical Preservation, Inc., and that the proposed district is potentially eligible for listing in the National Historical Register. He said that the process requires several workshops and that every property owner in the proposed district would have to be notified of the workshops and that a majority would have to be in favor for the request to be approved by the state. We have been told that there will be a workshop in Carabell on February the 4th, although we have not received any invitation. We are property owners in the proposed district. The city owns the fire department and the post office. It's in that district. And would expect to be notified as any other property owner. This is not a city-sanctioned request. The city did not submit the request, and I would like to remind everyone that the city of Carabell does not have a historic district and has not adopted any historic district by ordinance. Anybody have any questions on that?
Not at this time.
So, I'm sorry, I do now. So you said a majority of all property owners?
He
would
said a
need to-
majority of the property
Did it
owners
say
would
what
have
type of
to
majority,
agree.
like 51%?
He didn't, but we can
Does
give him a
anyone in the
call.
audience have any questions on that regarding the,
something,
whether or not the city has a historic district?
Jean Newton.
Miss Newton?
I do.
Okay. Just come on up here and just introduce, let us know your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Jean Newton.
Okay. Mhm. Just
my
speaking to the
question-
microphone then.
My question, you say we do not have a historic district.
There's not a designated historic district.
So anything I've seen on social media that says we do is incorrect.
That is correct.
And so at this point, can the state or the national, they can give us a historic district that's not approved by the city?
Yes.
And then
That
who's-
is my understanding after speaking with Mr. Weber, that it does not have to come before the city, that they have a workshop and they notify all the property owners in that proposed district, and a majority of them owners have to agree to it.
Okay, so if a majority agreed, then the national could do that.
Yes.
So then in a historic district, if someone wants to make improvements to their property, normally it has to go in front of a,
I'm not sure,
say
but
but who would be responsible for maintaining this historic district and putting up the signs, and who would that fall upon? Do you have any idea?
I don't know.
Okay,
Okay.
those are some of my questions.
It's,
But the big part is that there is no historic district now, but it is pending. Okay, lots of unanswered questions then from this.
Okay. And
Okay.
yes, Commissioner Melander?
no, ma'am, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
I'll defer.
Okay, and then I think Ms. Tamara would speak on this? Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Jeannie.
That wasn't what I put my card in for.
Okay. Yes, she could help. And I think now what this one is for is to go on the National Register
The
of
National Register of
Historic Places.
And we're, yes, and let me just, for those of you that aren't as old as I am, let me go back and review a little history. 2007, the Carabell was chosen as a Carabell Waterfront Partnership Community, and we had a study for a year. We did all kinds of things to study the wishes of the city of Carabell. We had over 500 of the citizens engaged, and there were things under hazard mitigation, environmental protection, so forth, and under historical preservation. And when we produced the report for the city to go to the state, one of the things that was in that report in 2008, when we finished the project, there was a recommendation in that report at great length about that we should go forward with at least one historic district. We probably have potential for as many as 3 here in Carabell, but based on just the concentration of historical buildings in the downtown waterfront, what I would call the downtown waterfront area. It's not just waterfront, it's also the buildings where the post office is and across the street and so forth in that little corridor. That was one of they called it the city center in the book. And that project was actually in a document that was adopted by the city council. I can't remember, Mr. Frank, if you were on or off at that point, but I think you might have still been there. And it said in the report, as money is available, that it would be pushed forward as a project for the city. And then we have done workshops many years ago about the concerns that people have about if they own historic property, that this is going to make them have to go do something. And so the answer to that simply is no, but it does, what it would do is enable a private owner of a property to be eligible for federal tax credits to use in renovation of their building. And it would be to the degree, any kind of rules that were set up would be set up by the community, not by the feds or by the state. But there would, if for example, well, Apalachicola did a book about the rules for their historic district, but they have a completely different set of things going on over there. You don't have to have a set like that. You could just say, for example, just say that the character of the town is 30s to 50s, and that we would encourage people to keep the buildings in concert with that. And you can have sign ordinance, you can have all kinds of things, but you can't, you don't have to have rules. You can just be designated as a historic district, which gets you a sign, and then you get people who do go take vacations going from community to community to look at historic districts. And there don't have to be any rules, and the commission could decide at a later date that they would like to make some rules about it. And it might have to do with new projects that were funded, or it might have to do with, in some towns they go as far as doing things like paint colors and all kinds of craziness. But an awful lot of communities are designated historic districts that don't have those kind of restrictive rules. But it just allows the property owners, who I know several have tried to find money to renovate their buildings, and they don't have money to do it. For some reason, they didn't want to do a facade grant, and they've really had difficulty making improvements, even critical ones to the buildings. So it could be a source of income, but not a requirement, and not something the city has to do.
Okay, all right.
So I don't know if that
Thank
was
you.
helpful.
Well, it's somewhat helpful
And
to
I can
me anyway.
give you
I
other,
don't know.
there's, that report is actually on the city website.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole section that talks about the pros and, the pros about having a historic district.
And Courtney has a copy in her
Yeah,
office as
and
well.
so-
for
And I have one
anybody.
at the museum if anybody wants to
Okay.
look at ours.
And I have sent folks, I don't know if they showed up or not, to go over there and take a look at that copy so that they could see the map that's in there that is proposed. And thank you for that description, but to clarify now that the city does not have a designated district at this time.
Oh, no.
No, okay. All right.
the ordinance says is that the city values its historic properties.
Okay, and we do. I do. So do we have any other comments on that portion of Ms. Courtney's report? Thank you, Courtney. Go ahead.
We've had recent numerous animal control complaints in the city, but particularly in the area of Tilly Miller Park. And Chief Schuman met with the owner of the dogs that have been allowed to run at large in the area. And the owner assured the chief he would make a better effort at keeping the dogs inside of the fenced-in yard. They do have a fenced-in yard. The dog owner had previously been fined by animal control, and Chief Schuman spoke with the animal control superintendent, who confirmed the prior violation and that they had been fined previously. And the chief reported his courtesy visit was very productive, and he has his officers watching for and to report all dogs off leashes and stray dogs to the animal control. So they are doing that currently, riding around when they're out patrolling and they're looking for animal control violations. Anything? Staff also met with other members of the public during the month to answer questions and concerns and increase public relations. The Department of Corrections has requested some of the playground equipment from the old building for their staff housing area. We do not have any use for the equipment, and it's in need of repair, and they have the means to repair it. So if you see some of the equipment being taken out, that's where it's going. VHF radios have been installed in some of the vehicles in preparation of hurricane season. There will also be a unit and an antenna here at City Hall so that staff can communicate with the people that are in the field. And that was part of our hurricane preparedness documents that we did last year, and to give us other forms of communication when the lines are down and we don't have any. The next two items I need action on. We have the Camp Gordon Johnson Parade coming up March 12th, 2022, and we have to submit for a permit for road closure, and the city has to approve that. We have to send the minutes in with the permit application. So we are requesting to close the road, Highway 98, for the Camp Gordon Johnson Parade for March 2nd, 2022.
March 2nd or 12th?
March 12th, I'm sorry.
And do we have a motion for that?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, and then a second?
Second.
Okay, and that motion is by Commissioner Mathis, second by Commissioner Millender. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries.
I think Keisha and I was just talking about this, so this one was kind of something that just came up. But we have a vacancy on the P&Z board, and we would like to replace that P&Z member. And so we're asking for permission to advertise for a P&Z member.
Motion to approve.
All right.
Second.
Okay, we have that motion to approve to advertise for a P&Z member by Commissioner Millender. Do we have a second?
Second.
And that second is by Commissioner Brown. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries.
I will just say that when we advertised for our CRA member, that we had several people that were interested in that position, but they didn't have any interest in the CRA. You know, they didn't have property or they weren't business owners. And, you know, I had told them we had a vacancy. So I think there's several people that might be interested and would put in an application. for that.
Okay, and I should have said this under discussion. I wasn't even thinking. But years ago, when I came on board, we had a few of the P&Z members who were not residents of the city, and as they fell off, I asked, you know, could we keep these P&Z members residents of the city? And so that's been what's done. So
Yes.
is that all right if we continue to keep them?
Yeah, I think that's most appropriate.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, one was from, lived out on Lighthouse Estate Road, and, you know, and I just didn't feel like that was correct, so, okay. if y'all
That's all
will
I
do that. Okay, thank you very much, and, do we have any other? Okay, and I just want to say real quick, I did speak to the chief about, his patrolling on the for the animals, stray animals, and also they may have to deal with some issues if animals, dogs are barking and they're a public nuisance, or noise. We have a noise ordinance as well. I think where animals barking dogs could fall under. But the chief reminded me, you know, that they are certified by the state as law enforcement officers, and they're not certified in the state of Florida as animal control officers, and these police officers cannot issue animal control citations. And Carabell doesn't have an animal control department, and we don't have the city doesn't have a safe way to safely take live animals into custody. The city doesn't have kennels to retain these animals, and animal control service is provided by the Franklin County Animal Control Department, who have certified animal control officers that work for them. And so seizure and impoundment of animals, dogs and cats, is the responsibility and the jurisdiction of the Animal Control Department. And it sounds to me like the Carabell police officers are going to be working more closely with the Animal Control Department. So we hope that works out. All right. Anything else? Okay. Then we'll move on to our city clerk.
Just got some dates for everybody. We've, January 17th, City Hall will be closed for Martin Luther King Day. January 18th at 1:30 is our CRA meeting. And January 20th at 2 o'clock is our P&Z meeting.
Okay, do we have anything for P&Z?
We do. We have
Okay.
a couple little things on there.
All right, so there will be a P&Z
Yes.
meeting. Okay, does anyone have any other questions for Ms. Keisha? All right, I thank you very much. And then we'll move on to Enovia's report.
All right, thank you. All right, on our DOT Small Communities Grant Project, The Hill, that's the 9th Street Paving, we have been hopeful that we would receive a drainage easement related to that project as recently as today. But in discussion with Courtney, we're going to look for some other options and see if we can find another option.
Okay.
We need to move that project ahead.
Plan B.
Plan B. All right, on our Baywood Drive improvements, I understand that's still under review by the Florida House. Mayor, did I see that you had some discussions with
Well,
representatives on that one, or no?
I just, talked to them and let
Okay.
them know, with the Senator Osley and Preston Wilson.
that's what I saw.
Yes,
Okay. All right.
that, we have submitted.
Okay. All right, and then on the Lighthouse project, we have reviewed the shop drawings, and we understand that there's some revisions headed back to us for approval. From that point, there'll be some time for them to order the materials before they break ground, but I think that's gonna happen within the next 30 or 40 days. I think that should be happening pretty soon. Also heard from DEP today, and they're researching options for the city to apply for the additional grant funds, and they said they'll be getting back with us soon. All right, on our Marine Street project, we're anticipating the environmental review to be complete soon, and that project will be ready for letting February or March. And then on the sewer infiltration inflow project, that's the CDBG disaster recovery. I haven't heard any word, yay or nay, on that application yet. Okay, and that's what I have for the report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just one quick, going back to the 9th Street, do you have any, right off the top of your head, Russell, you'd have any idea about Plan B?
Yes, it's more difficult. It may require some deep pipe. Normally you try to keep pipe less than 10 feet deep. We may have to be deeper than that in order to reach a low point to punch the pipe out. So I do have some ideas to answer your question, but we're going to have to evaluate the severity of what those would be.
Well, that was a discussion Courtney and I have had in the last month. I was afraid we were gonna run into needing a Plan B because we knew we were getting in a time crunch.
Right.
And don't wanna lose that opportunity that we have. And,
Right.
anyway, it's really in your court as an engineer to come up with a good Plan B, and from my perspective, so.
But
Right.
we need a Plan B that we can afford.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Well,
Yes.
when I say Plan B, that covers it all. So,
Okay, well, it's got to be,
Yeah.
if there's no money.
Right, and there may be some regulatory issues that we can work around to make it not so expensive, but
But we're gonna have to move quick.
right,
Yeah.
right. Understood.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, then I had requested a couple of months ago about a quote to pave the most northern block of Ryan Drive. If the commissioners want to follow up with Ms. Courtney and look on our log account, there is funding for that, and it would be nice to be able to get that paved up there. But I think we were gonna add it had talked about adding it as a change order to 9th Street.
Right.
But we'll need a quote on that as well as these other items that we had talked about for the CRA.
Yes, and
Okay.
at the library, et cetera, yes.
Yes, okay. All right.
I don't have that number tonight,
Yes,
but as we progress with 9th Street, I'll make sure we do.
okay. And those folks that access or use that most northern block of Ryan Drive, it's on my list. I haven't forgotten it. And we'll get it paved one way or another, okay?
Right.
All right. Any other items for Mr. Russell? Okay, then we'll move to our advisory board reports, and I didn't receive a report from the Carabell Waterfront Partnership. Okay. All right, and then we have the Carabell Aviation Advisory Board report, and Mr. Sullivan is here this evening. And did you all have a chance to review your report that he submitted? And then I believe Mr. Sullivan wanted to speak this evening? Yes, okay, all right, very good. And thank you for your report. We appreciate that, keeping us up to date what's going on out at the airport.
Right. The one thing I want to bring up is about the airport flood zone. You know, there's a countywide debate about both airports having a difficulty with a new or possible new FEMA zoning. But both the city and Clerk and Kimley Horn agreed that there is minimal, if to no, impact on the airport, the Carabell Airport. So there's just no need to spend any more effort on that. What I'd like to answer is what I'd like to do is answer a question that was asked and address a couple of statements that were made at the last commission meeting concerning the airport courtesy car. The question was, has the airport board addressed or discussed any fee charges for the county courtesy car, for the courtesy car? And the answer is no. The noun courtesy in regards to transport means supplied free of charge to people who are already paying for another service. The example is he traveled to the hotel in a courtesy car. For Carabell, the example could be a pilot and passenger travel to a local restaurant, visited with a local real estate agent, or shopped for Carabell gifts in a courtesy car. The best way to get pilots not to visit the Carabell Airport is to charge for something that they expect to be free. Offering a courtesy car is the best way to attract aviators to spend money in Carabell. And you saw on my report the impact that the previous studies of impact on what the pilots and the passengers spend on the average. The statement was made that at other airports there are some fees on courtesy cars, and they also have rental cars. I've been flying into military, public, and private airports and heliports for 47 years, in military, corporate, charter, and general aviation aircraft in many states and in a few foreign countries, and I've never been charged to use a courtesy car. Some FBOs, the FBOs being the businesses at the airports, require purchase of fuel to use their cars, but they also provide other goods and services for free, like snacks, drinks, food, pilots' lounges, and showers. I've never seen a municipality put any financial requirements on the use of a courtesy car. Rental cars at airports are offered by FBOs at larger airports, but rental cars are a business, not a service. The statement was made, I hate to see any significant expense burden on the taxpayers when we might need to consider or talk about and discuss a phenomenal, not my word, fee for using it. There is no expense burden on the taxpayers from airport operations. The city of Carabell was contributing significant taxpayer funds to the airport, at least $20,000 to $30,000 a year, to keep it operational before 2016 with little or no capital investment or improvements. Since the Carabell Aviation Advisory Board was established in 2016, the city has not had to contribute any funds to the airport operations. This is a savings to the city taxpayers of $180,000 in 6 years compared to the previous years before the board. Through the work of volunteers on the board and with full cooperation of the city administrator, since 2016 there have been significant airport improvements and maintenance and capital projects, including the purchase of equipment using only airport funds, FDOT grants, with no expense burden on the Carabell taxpayers. The statement was made, I think it would be worth discussing because we're going to have to provide maintenance and upkeep on the vehicle, and we're going to have to provide insurance on the vehicle, and that is going to come out of the tax base. It would come out of the city coffers. None of that is true. The money generated at the airport, mostly hangar rental income, are the only funds used for airport maintenance, upkeep, utilities, and insurance. No funds have been used at the airport since 2016. In fact, the city has saved $180,000 in that time period. The Aviation Advisory Board meets monthly. For most of the meetings, the finance clerk provides year-to-date budget reports, which I believe you all get a copy. It is an item on our agenda each month to review the budget to identify any abnormalities. Most of the time, the city administrator or finance clerk address the entries in question during and right after the board meeting. The board does not The board does not just point out problems, but offers solutions. If there is any item, any line item that is over the approved airport budget, we investigate why and what to do to bring it back in line and make our suggestions to the city administrator. When there are unforeseen expenses, as there were in 2020, 2021, money from capital projects or other items can be scaled back, are identified, and that money used to cover unforeseen event, again with the city administrator's approval. If at any time funding cannot be found in the airport budget, the board will discuss the situation, bring it to the city's administrator's attention with a proposal on what action may be taken. This happened last year when the city budget was hit with several unforeseen items at the beginning of the fiscal year and the fuel system shut down, waiting on parts and technicians for repair. No money was spent on capital projects, and any maintenance that could be postponed was postponed for that fiscal year. The board discussed this with the city administrator, and the board advised that a request for the CARE Act funds of $20,000 for fuel would keep the budget in order. The city administrator agreed, and the commission granted the funds with no money coming out of the city's tax base for the 6th year in a row. Again, the board does not just point out problems, but offers solutions. I would like to mention that since 2016, the Carabell Aviation Advisory Board, with the city administrators and the majority of city commissioners' approval and cooperation, has overseen over $2 million worth of projects that include hangar renovations, new hydraulic doors, electricity, roof repairs, 2 new hangars, moving the fuel system to a new area, getting the fuel system back in operation after 3 years of sitting empty, a new card reading system, high definition security cameras, selling and removal of trees that were within the obstacle zone, a soon-to-be completed perimeter fence, a resurfaced ramp and taxiway, and completed a new 20-year master plan and airport layout plan. The board was instrumental in acquiring grants to begin expansion outlined in the master plan with funding of over $8 million in the next 5 years. The Carabell Aviation Board has well proven its fiscal responsibility and accountability to the city over the last 6 years. Any questions?
I want to thank you for that report, and I appreciate specifically the last part of it, that you gave us a rundown then of what you have done over the past 6 years, the volunteers on the Aviation Advisory Board. I appreciate it, and it has saved the city a good bit of money. It started out from the very beginning, once you were appointed as the group of you took the place of one airport manager position, all of you, and you worked very closely with Ms. Courtney. That started out right away. That first year saved $20,000 from the city taxpayers having to fund that airport manager salary. So and as the time goes by, it saves more and more, and as we get more hangars out there, it saves more and more. So I do appreciate it.
And next month is our sixth year, and it has been with the help of, with working with the city administrator. Courtney's just been excellent. That's where why we are where we are today. One thing I want to mention too about, you mentioned Senator Rubio's office and the possibility of infrastructure funding for airports. I hope they understand that if that money is funded through the FAA, the city will not be entitled to it. As rural areas, small airports that are not in the FAA NIPIAS program is not entitled to that funding, and it didn't get any funding from the last money that was given, stimulus money that was given out. So that we're missing the boat on that, and I hope it's different this time, because the one thing that airport needs desperately is the rehabilitation of the stormwater drainage.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And for the public record, because a lot of folks don't understand how, I know I certainly didn't when I came on board, how government budgets work. And we have our city budget. Our city general fund budget, water and sewer budget, and we have required by the state an airport budget, and that airport has its own distinct and separate budget, separate from the city budget. And in the airport budget, the revenues to operate the airport come from the collections of the 11 hangars and fuel sales. and the airport revenues and expenses are separate from the city general fund budget, and not associated with the city general fund budget, which is largely funded by the city property taxes from our city taxpayers. And so, as we just discussed, since early 2016, the Carabell Airport has been self-sufficient and supports itself. If they don't have the money, then the steps to the terminal building don't get repaired, that kind of thing. But the city taxpayers have not funded projects or routine maintenance or utilities or salaries and the likes out at the airport now since 2016. And it's my understanding for a courtesy car that the airport funding, the airport's budget would have full responsibility for that, on the maintenance of it, and if it needed tires or a tune-up or anything like that. Is that correct?
That's correct. And if it's uneconomical, we won't do it. If we don't have the funds or don't see the funding coming up to cover the cost, we just won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a surplus vehicle as it is, and it becomes surplus too if it's financially not doable.
Okay, and then you all took a surplus vehicle, that electric cart, which you're now returning to be a surplus vehicle, to be sold in the upcoming surplus sale. But you all took that and Mr. Greg Newman did the repairs on it. You bought the new batteries, $1,500 worth of batteries and all of that, and none of that affected the taxpayers?
No.
Okay. All right, okay, I thank you very much. Do we have any further questions or comments or questions from the audience? Okay. All right, and that's all for our advisory board reports at this time. We have no public hearings tonight. And then we'll move on to new business, which is discussion and possible action regarding hiring a part-time water and sewer billing clerk as recommended by administrative and supervisory staff. And so I talked to Courtney about this to make sure that this is something that her and Charlie recommend. And then I did speak to Courtney and Charlie together actually, and this is they recommend this. I want to toss it over to you now so you can speak.
What this position would be a water and sewer billing clerk, but also would act as a receptionist or answer phones or help with boat ramp passes and occupational license, and we need someone up there. I mean, we're constantly having to, if Miss Crystal's out, then Miranda's having to take off of her time to go work the front desk, or Keisha's having to run up front. So we do see a need for someone up there. And like I said, it would be also to help out with the receptionist and the phone, answering phones, and because the person that sits up there is not only doing water and sewer, they're taking phone calls for the entire city hall, and they're greeting people as they come in and being that sending them to Keisha or sending them to the police department or where they need to go. So.
And I would say when I came on board after a couple of months, it was easy for me to recognize, especially at the old city hall there, when Miss Renee was out, even on her vacation, they're entitled, all the employees are entitled to time off. And Miranda, and even to this date, she just some days has to completely abandon her desk to fill in for the clerk, and then if Miranda's out or going to lunch, Keisha or Courtney have to work the desk, and it takes them away from their duties.
But this is, Charlie gave this example. He was up front with Crystal the other day, and she's on the phone with a customer. She's got two standing in front of her, and the phone's ringing, and nobody's answering the phone, and we're constantly getting, no one answers the phone. We call all day long, but we don't get a phone when no one answers. But it usually, so we're here and we're answering phone calls, but if we're tied up, or Keisha and I may be in a meeting and we're not able to answer the phone, and Crystal's on the phone, and
And we have 5 lines also, so they're all ringing, you know.
Yeah, and I know we've all been in Courtney's office and seen that happen.
Mayor, what I'm hearing from staff, and I've talked with the ladies in the office, and what I'm hearing from them is we need some assistance that's multifunctional throughout all the departments. And my idea and concept, and that's where we're at in discussion, is not a water and sewer billing clerk, but a staff assistant, so to speak. Staff assistant or administrative assistant, whatever you want to term. I mean, whichever term we decide on, that's multifunctional, that can fill in at the front desk for whatever need. That can fill in, not to do Keisha's complete job, but to do part of assisting her, part of assisting Miranda, a staff assistant that's multifunctional, that's part-time. And I hope we're not considering a full-time position here. I hope we're looking at a part-time, maybe 20 hours a week, you know.
I assumed it was part-time.
Exactly. And not a full-time employee that's gonna be salaried or all that, just a hourly person that can fill in, it's multifunctional, that can work wherever in that office it's needed. And that's what I'm hearing from staff. And I would like to see us put together with staff's assistance or participation, or actually from them, put together some kind of position description, and let's look at it and let's decide where we're gonna go. That's just my opinion.
And it's unfortunate, staff hasn't said that to me. They're talking more like a water and sewer billing clerk, and I'm getting mixed messages.
Well, we talked about that they would be more than a billing clerk, because she would be doing other stuff. They would be a receptionist, but Keisha does need help too, but.
Yeah, and I know that, and all of the staff needs help. Like I had mentioned before, their duties and people are calling on them more and more every day.
Right.
And even though we think our population hasn't increased, and maybe it hasn't, but our second homeowners are increasing, and we see we're getting housing starts all over town,
Demand's
so.
increasing.
But I would want to know, how would this general fund doesn't have the money to fund a position like this, but the water and sewer does. The water and sewer has a desk and a computer set up already. So, you know, I don't know, does the staff have a recommendation for that?
Well, in November, it was stated that we had 4,000 in the building and 12,000 in the code enforcement to help pay for the part-time police, community police building, that position. We were gonna be using funds for that, so I agree that we need a well-rounded office assistant, like I suggested last month, and it could be partially funded from the same money that we had already said could be funding another position.
It could be partially, but I don't know if we should take all of our code enforcement money and put that towards a salary.
And exactly, and I guess, hopefully I'm clear here. What I'm saying is, certainly we have to get our funding. If we don't have the funding, we can't do it. But if we can come up with the funding, and we can split funding as we do in other positions between water and sewer and the general fund, or divide it, or portion it out where it needs to go. And I'm understanding that, like in the building department, the income's up a little bit. I don't know exactly what the dollar is here tonight to discuss, but that's more of what we need to look into between now and when we decide on what we're gonna do with a part-time position, whatever we term it. And so what I'm suggesting that we might do here tonight is to go ahead and explore and work with staff and come up with their needs and come up with what we can afford to do, and then let's try to put together a part-time position.
I agree that we need really a full-time position, but we can't afford it.
We can't afford it.
So, you know, at least we all do agree that we need a part-time position. I'm in agreement with that, Commissioner Melander. I don't know, where our next item has to deal with the HR committee, which is made up of staff who would put together a job description or what is needed. You know, the HR committee could decide, help put together what is needed in the office. So I don't know, maybe we want to possibly table this item until we hear back from something that's put together more formal from staff.
I'm gonna make a motion that we table it
Okay.
until we can, and come back at the next meeting with answers on these questions and uncertainties that we have at the current moment. And make a decision from that point if we can, if we're prepared and ready. We'll come back with some answers on funding, come back with some answers on job duties and those kind of things and where they're gonna work. But I still, from what I'm hearing, is visualize, not just from what I'm hearing from staff on their needs, but on what we can afford to do, a multifunctional person that can move around and be assistants in this office as a whole.
What we need
So-
to, get a year-to-date. So
Yeah.
for both the water and sewer and I've asked for that.
That's
and I'm
correct.
gonna go ahead and ask for it again from the general fund and the water and sewer so that
Yeah.
we can have a good understanding of what the funding is. And we're, next month will be a quarter into the year, so it would be nice to have a financial report.
So my
And-
motion is to table it until we have further information.
Okay, and then, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and that motion is to table by Commissioner Melander, second by Commissioner Brown, and discussion. I just wanted to say, I would like to get the year-to-date financial reports as a report from the Finance Department along with the other department reports. Okay, is there any other discussion on this tabling, this item at this point?
Do y'all have a salary idea on a salary or?
I think, let's.
I
would
think
say-
that'd be part of our research.
Yeah, that could
Well,
be,
in order to find, you know, the money.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Okay,
I'm sorry, I didn't get the second.
okay, that's,
Sabrina.
Melander and Brown. All right, and then we have item 2, discussion and possible action regarding reconvening the HR committee with assignment. And for public knowledge, for the folks who don't know about the HR, Human Resources Committee, it's an advisory board that's currently now made up of upper city level management, which includes the administrator, the chief of police, the water and sewer superintendent, the streets and roads superintendent, and a member of the public who's experienced in and has expertise in human resources, who serves as a chairperson and moderator, and a city commission member. And I just want to report to you all that after I recently participated in a Florida League of Cities webinar regarding city commission advisory boards, and the attorneys there advised, and any of you all can go on and see that webinar. It's online on the Florida League of Cities. But those attorneys advised and recommended that a city commissioner or a city commission member, could be me even, should not sit in as an advising member on their own appointed advisory boards. And the Florida League of Cities ethics attorneys explained in that webinar that the city commission is like a board of directors, and we are in a way. And that having a commission member sit on the commission's own advisory board gives that commission member the opportunity to make recommendations on the front end that will end up being approved by that same commissioner on the back end. And they said that paid staff members who would participate and advisory board committees may feel intimidated by this, and paid staff members could feel some degree of pressure or coercion about what they're expected to do when a commission member or a board of director member participates in discussions to develop recommendations that will ultimately be made back to herself or himself. And the League of Cities Attorneys said that this is really especially true if the advisory board members are hired staff, and that a commission member participating in this manner can unintentionally make staff feel as if there could be repercussions if the final decisions and recommendations did not meet approval of that commission member. And you know, in my opinion, the city's upper level management should be allowed to formulate their own recommendations to this board and allow them to do what they're hired and paid for, and they know best what they need, better than I know, and they need to formulate their own recommendations for this board. And before we discuss reconvening the board, I just want to strongly recommend and encourage this board that we consider restructuring the HR committee and just and allowing it to have 5 members, the administrator, the chief of police, the water and sewer superintendent, the streets and roads superintendent, and the member of the public who would sit as chair and moderator. So I just wonder what you all would think about that.
Is there a reason why our city clerk wouldn't be on there since she's the head of the building department and the code enforcement?
It's possible. I would ask Ms. Courtney, what do you think about that?
I don't, it's fine with me, I guess.
I mean, it would make it an even number, I just think.
But sometimes for voting, did the chair or moderator vote when you all were doing that before?
On the HR committee, we never really voted.
Okay.
We did come to a consensus.
We come to a consensus, but we never really voted.
I mean,
Not throwing you under the bus, I was just curious.
I mean, it's, you know, if you want to suggest that, I'm open to that as well. Like I say, I'm referring to Ms. Courtney. She's the city manager. She is the manager of all of them and the administrative staff as well. So, I mean, you should know what staff needs, but if you want to recommend that you need another, would like to have another person serve on that committee, I mean, I'm open to that. I think that the rest of this board would be open to it as well.
I'm open to it, that's fine with
Okay.
me.
Yeah, but and I am too. I mean, well, I understand and I agree with you. However, the way it was normally considered and the way it was considered with the HR committee was the department heads, if you will, were on the HR committee. But what they brought to the table was information from their employees. As the city administrator is the clerk's superior,
That makes
and
sense.
what she brought to the table was from her staff. What Charlie brought, he interacted with his staff. Dustin, same way. And as Mr. Tom just stated, he was the chairman of the committee. We never really voted, but everyone came to a consensus and had good discussion back and forth, and then you came to a consensus. But whichever, but that's normally that's the way it worked. There was input from the entire employees.
We didn't always agree on things, but we had to.
You
after
say
we
y'all
said
didn't always
discuss-
agree?
Not always.
No.
Yeah, but that's the way it is when you have a board, and
Exactly.
that's a good thing. So, are you saying that you don't suggest having the clerk sit on the board?
No.
Oh,
I didn't
okay,
say
okay,
that.
I
was just
misunderstood. That's why I'm
giving an
asking.
explanation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, But as I say, I'm just reporting to you what the it was an ethics webinar regarding advisory boards that serve the city commission.
But as far as the commission being on the advisory boards, I don't have an issue with that either. They put it together. The way I visualize it, and I was on the HR committee by the mayor's request, okay? And, but the way everything that we did within the HR committee came back to those other 4 commissioners. I had access to it because I sit there. But it came back to every one of these commissioners. They had the same information.
That's correct.
They were entitled for their input before it was ever a final decision made. Yeah.
That's correct, but I'm just reporting that by having a board member sit on an advisory board like that, especially a paid, your hired staff who's acting as an advisory board, it can intimidate some of the members, you know, then we could, but at that point we would be able to. All of the commissioners would have the information at the same time, and that's where then it's brought to us, where we have the opportunity to review it and discuss it like we're discussing now, and we can offer revisions just like we're discussing now. We can adopt it, or we can even send it back to the committee for revisions from themselves. So, you know, yes, I did, and we did have a motion back then on I got the minutes here somewhere. I have the minutes, but we did do a motion to appoint the advisory board, and it named all of these positions that I have named, and that's why I'm bringing it back to the commission to reconsider this and to possibly restructure that advisory board. And I'm just bringing that to your attention and asking you if you would give that some consideration. So are we not interested in restructuring?
Okay, if I can.
Okay.
I'm interested. I don't think tonight we're at the point to present anything to the advisory board if we reconvene it. Because right now we're asking for information for this board to make some decisions if we're gonna go forward with it. But I'm interested in reconvening the board, and if there's not a commissioner on it, I don't have a heartburn with that. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. We're still gonna get to review it.
Yes, yes.
Just
we
like
will.
everybody does. I mean, it's still gonna get to review it. So it doesn't matter to me, whatever this board wants to do. But I'm interested in reconvening when we get to that point. And I would love for Mr. Tom, he's in the audience tonight, very good to see him. I used to call him and check on him, but I've been remiss and I hadn't lately. But anyway, if he's still interested, I would love for Mr. Tom to still serve as the chairman of that board if the board so chooses. But yes, I'm interested. You're asking that question. Yeah, that's my concern. But I don't think we're at the point to give we're not at a point to give them an assignment tonight.
No, we're not necessarily well, now, the assignment would be for the board. The way I thought it would happen is that the HR committee would put together just all of the things that you discussed in the previous item, all of the things that were needed by staff and what would be the job duties, and develop a job description and kind of you know, give us what they felt like a pay range would be, and to develop a job description for a multifunctional staff assistant, as you have recommended. And that's something that the HR committee could do, that's in my opinion. Had we gone ahead and recommended to hire a billing clerk, it still would have been under this item, I still wanted the HR committee to come together and put together a job description for an additional office person, because we will be needing that sooner. We're not going to not need it. We will be needing an additional office person eventually.
Whatever the board wants to do, I'm fine with it. Yeah,
Do we need a motion?
I'm not opposed.
Well, that's if do you
Well,
want
at
to?
this time, I would not suggest to put Keisha on the HR committee. Here we are talking about how overloaded
I
she
was
is
just fixing
already.
to say that when they
And
got
then
done.
to
I
take
was
her an
trying-
hour out of her
an hour
day
and
to
a
sit
half
on the
meet,
HR
and I
committee.
just, I don't know that I could.
Well, I was
just
trying to talk
understand
through it when I made that
everything a little bit
explanation.
better.
I'll relay it to Courtney and she can take it to the board.
Give
but-
her a list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I will make a motion to reconvene the HR committee minus the commissioner to come up with a job description and budgetary needs funding for the part-time office person.
Okay.
Is that-
All right, we have that motion.
Second.
Okay, and we have a motion by Commissioner Brown, and if you'll just say that one more time.
Motion to reconvene the HR committee minus the previous commissioner to come up with a job description and funding for the part-time office employee, whatever it's called.
Okay, and we have that,
Well,
Motion.
not funding, but pay scale,
Pay
Yeah.
scale, budget.
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
range.
pay range.
Pay range.
And we have that motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Mathis. And so there's one other item, and we're in discussion now. You said minus the commissioner position.
On the board,
Yes.
the
and,
HR committee, because you said you didn't want them on there.
I don't recommend it. I mean, I did, but as we progress and grow and learn on this board and attend webinars and meetings, we learn. But I wanted you to change. I was going to ask one term. If you'll read that one more time, I'm sorry. Sorry.
I didn't write it down, I'm winging it.
You want me to read what I have?
You want me to do two motions, one to remove the commissioner from the HR
Yes,
committee?
and that's, I honestly think that would be better. And, but
So we'll do
just
the
say-
first one,
uh-huh.
remove the, motion to remove the commissioner
The
from the HR
The
committee.
commission member position.
You can't do that. You already have a motion and a second on the table.
That's true, but we can.
I said minus.
That's what I wanted you to just remove the commission member position.
Yes.
And
Well,
don't
and
say
that's how I had it worded too.
commission
anyway.
member position. No, I mean, I don't want to target any one.
Read yours, what
commissioner.
do you have?
Okay. And,
Yeah, read yours, Keisha.
Mr. Pascalo, does that seem all right to have that combined as two?
Yep.
Okay, and just make that commission member position.
Okay,
To
Commissioner
remove.
Brown motions to reconvene, removing the commission member position to discuss the job description pay range for a part-time office assistant. Commissioner Mathis seconds.
Okay, does that sound all right to y'all?
Yes.
That's exactly what I was.
Okay. All right, so we have that. Is there any other discussion? Is there any discussion from the audience? Okay, Miss Glaze, if you'll please come up.
I just want to state my opinion.
All right, that's
My-
fine.
My opinion is that it's so hard to see just everything being above board. I think if you do put a commissioner in there to make another vote, that there's, I don't care if you're adults or children or neighbors or what it is, but people have a tendency to click. You got a little click here and you got a little click here. I really liked the suggestion to have this fine gentleman sit in as a neutral party, because to me, he seems like a neutral party. I think that is much more fair to the citizens. For our transparency, I think he would be a fine choice. That's just my statement.
Okay, thank you. And he is the person who has expertise in human resources, Mr. Tom Magnan. Okay, so we have is there any other discussion?
And we weren't removing him.
No.
Well, we're gonna ask him, I am in a minute, if he wants to,
Yes.
continue. I'm gonna ask him that in a minute. Okay, once we get through this vote here. So is there any other, discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries, and that was a good motion. Thank you, Commissioner Brown. But that was my opinion. Okay. So now I will ask, and I want to tell everyone too that once we had agreed to put this item on the agenda last month, I called Mr. Magnan, and I wanted to let him know this was going to be on the agenda to allow him the opportunity to think about it over the month, to consider whether or not he wished to continue to participate on the advisory board. He didn't give me his answer. I don't know, he's had time to think about it over the month, and that's, I'm assuming, why he's here this evening, and we're all glad to see you. We hope that, you know, you can come back more often. So you want to speak to us, Mr. Magnan?
Do you want me to come up?
If you want, or somebody could hand him the, okay, I was gonna say hand him the microphone.
Right. Thank you. Well, I'd be glad to serve on the committee again. It was a good experience for me, and I hope for the other people on the committee. I think the way we met was, I believe, and correct me if my memory is not right on this, we were meeting twice a month, on the same day and the same time, so that everybody would have that on their schedule. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. Does that ring a bell to anybody?
I'm not sure it was twice a month, but we may have met twice several times.
Yeah.
I think now when I'm thinking about it, it seems like you met twice, three times, and then.
We from the onset, when we were reworking all the PDs, position descriptions, we met twice a month there for a couple of times, and then we fell back to the once.
I see.
We were pretty much working through those. And then you're correct, Mr. Tom, we were meeting on Wednesdays. And I think it was just once at that time when we were making some progress.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, we jumped in there full force.
Okay.
And overall, it was you all did good work, and I appreciate the volunteer work on Mr. Magnan. He put in a lot of hours, and he served as a secretary also and provided us a report each month under the advisory board reports.
Yeah, and I'll continue to do that.
Okay, thank you.
This sounds like more of a kind of a short-term assignment.
I would think it would be just.
Just to deal with this particular issue, so.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm interested in doing it, and, you know, do you want us to start this month, or do you want to wait till after the meeting in
Let's
February?
ask Ms. Courtney what you would like to do.
I'm good with this month. I don't know what Charlie's schedule looks like.
We'll get with everyone that's involved and Mr. Tom as well, and see if you
Okay.
can put together a day that's gonna work for you.
Yeah, I can just send an email to everybody. I think I have everybody's email except maybe the chief. Would he have the same email as Gary
No,
had?
he has a different email. I can
Okay.
send you an email though with
Okay,
everybody's emails, and
Okay.
we'll start a chain email going.
And Mr.
Alright.
Tom would do the agendas, and didn't you notified folks of reminders? Is that what you did? I can't.
Yeah, pretty much we set the date, make sure that it was a good time and day for everybody. And, you know, it was mostly on Wednesdays, but I can remember a few times that we switched it to another day if people had conflict. So we're pretty flexible about when the meeting occurred, so. I think we can work that out, you know, and our main means of communication between meetings was email, so. And,
Okay.
So I'll start that, if you can send me the chief's email,
I will send that out.
Courtney, I'll try to get the ball rolling on that, so.
I don't believe you have Dustin's email either.
You know, I don't, you're right, I don't, yeah.
Okay, well, that'd be good, and we look forward to hearing from you all.
Okay.
And I would suggest to follow Courtney's lead to beginning, because this is in her, her field.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, basically, I see my role as just being coordinating the agenda and I'll write the minutes but
And
certainly the people with the most input are the people that are the department heads, and as it should be, so.
And then you'll
I'm
report
just-
back to us and the public what the process and what's.
What transpired. at
Yes,
the-
sir.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, well,
Just wanted to say, good to see you, Mr. Tom, and thank you very
Toby.
much again for your work.
Well, you're very
all
welcome.
right, I thank you, I thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
All right, that's good. Do we have any other thing to discuss under this item number 2? Okay, then we'll move on to item 3, which I see Mr. Johnson is here, and I'm glad. You've been here about an hour. Thank you for coming. Item 3, discussion of possible action regarding scheduling a workshop for development of a solution to stop the ongoing illegal dumping of fish waste or carcasses and garbage into the shoreline of the Marine Street Riverwalk Park. Mr. Johnson, you want to come up and speak, or do we need him to come up and speak, or he did request that? Did you bring more pictures for Miss Courtney this evening? She's got a better computer to use.
No, I think the pictures pretty much summed it up before.
Okay,
And it looks like that's pretty clear there.
yeah,
You know, there's the picture that tells you what's going on.
mhm,
There's, and that's every day that there's people go fishing. There's a big sign there, and that's one of the slides that says, it's illegal to do it and all that, and that's like telling people to go 25 miles an hour. and
Could
they're
you
not doing it.
remove your mask just while you're speaking into, thank you. Okay, very good, thank you.
The point is that there's a big sign that nobody's paying attention to, just like they're not paying attention to the speed limits.
Mhm.
So it has to be something done about it. But it's not just the fish carcasses. Pelicans get them stuck in their pouches, and then they ended up dying, a lot of them and stuff. It's unsightly, and people there's a tremendous amount of garbage. People just throw their empty cans and their picnic stuff or whatever they have, they just throw it right there.
And there was one picture of people washing their boat. I mean, they bring their boats up here and buckets of water and soap and use the potable water that we all pay for.
Yeah.
They have hoses and they hook them right up there to those faucets and.
So what the object of the problem's obvious, and what to do about it is, if we had a workshop, then we could go, okay, here's what are we going to do about it, how could we fix it? And part of a workshop would be something to be determined. We'd have to go, who can be on the workshop, and then we'd get together and go, okay, what do they do in Appalachia, what do they do in Sarasota, and there'd be a whole gamut of things to discuss about it, including just shutting down the fish cleaning station, enforcement. I know there was a scallop place that somebody said that they had some kind of solution that was environmentally friendly that they provided, and people could throw their carcasses in that, and it would, once a week, it would dissolve them somewhat, and then they could haul it away. And in the meantime, there's all kind of possible answers, but we need an answer, so the workshop would be the next step. And then after the workshop, then we would come back with some answers. And I can tell you right now, I can't head the workshop. I do all the wildlife rescues in this county, or supervise them if I'm not personally doing them. And I don't need another thing to do. It's like, after the red tide, I've got as many as 7 calls in a day to go rescue cormorants that are having a neurologic reaction, which they are especially prone to. So, but I'd be glad to participate in a workshop.
Okay, I think I might have misunderstood. Now, I think that you were requesting this board to conduct a workshop.
Right.
Okay, all right.
And I'm
then.
willing to do my own research too and contribute to that workshop. So that's why I requested
okay.
one.
And were you going to maybe contact the FWC to get a representative from the FWC
Yeah.
to attend to see how they, and we could, if the commission wants to hold a workshop, and we could get a representative from the police department, you know, to attend. Do you all think we want to hold a workshop?
Sure.
Okay. So, all right, so it looks like we have a consensus to do a workshop. And so what we need to decide here are, do we want to do this in January? What are our available dates in January? When I know that we're going to schedule a workshop, I already checked my calendar, so I'll just tell you, I'm available on the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 25th, and 27th. So, and what time of day do you want to do it as well? And remember, we do have a CRA meeting too.
Are you available after the CRA meeting? Could we do it right after the CRA meeting?
It might last a little longer. It might go late into, you know, their off time. They get off at 4:30, and the CRA meeting could last till 3. It might be like a 2-hour workshop.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Courtney?
I wouldn't do it after the CRA. It could run long.
Okay. So maybe the week after the CRA and P&Z meeting, that following week? How's
Well,
that look for you
I'm
guys?
available the 13th, the 25th, and 27th.
The 25th or the 27th?
Okay.
That's a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Tuesday or Thursday. And how does that go with the P&Z meeting, Ms. Keisha?
The P&Z's on the 20th.
Okay.
Tuesday, the 25th?
All right, we're waiting on Mr. Commissioner Melander. I'm
You're
sorry,
taking
I
away
always
from
call
his
you Mr.
hunting.
Commissioner.
You're taking his hunting time.
Yeah.
Y'all don't feel like we could do it after the CRA meeting? Y'all think the CRA meeting's gonna go long?
I don't know that the CRA meeting would go so long. I think the workshop would go long.
Well, the public workshop, I feel like it's gonna be long. But we also need time for this public workshop information to get out and it gets circulating in the community, so.
Yeah.
Well, if
and-
you have it at the CRA meeting, that's sooner than the 25th. At least
Well,
the
what about-
25th
what
gets some
about-
more.
Mr. Johnson, do you think we should do it that soon, or you wanna give it a month to get the word out, or what do you wanna do?
Well, it's been like that for a long time, so, I think let's make sure we get some good people there too to come up with the best, his starting point.
So,
A month sounds good to me.
Y'all want to go into February?
Second week of February, like the 7th through the 11th sometime?
You know, and it's fine with me.
when?
The week of the 7th through the 11th, one of those days?
I could do that any day but the 9th. I have a meeting on
How
that
about the
day.
11th?
11th?
That's a Friday.
That's a
I don't know
Friday.
if that's good.
That's my birthday.
Oh, it is?
Is it really? Let's do it on the 11th.
We'll have hors d'oeuvres and cocktails.
Sushi.
Big bottle.
Okay. I don't know, would Friday be a good day?
Not for me.
No.
Okay.
Fridays are really
Said that.
busy around here.
I'm just speculating.
Okay. A Tuesday or Thursday, the 8th or the 10th of February.
Let's do it the 10th.
Okay,
10th, okay.
all right. And then what time do we want to do that?
Later, so that more people can come, I would think.
2 o'clock, 3 o'clock? Not too late though, because if you get the FWC people in, you know, they don't want to stay after hours either.
So, yeah, we really want them to be there.
2 p.m.?
Give them warning, I start on the 9th.
Oh. Oh, my
Do
God.
what, for the 11th?
He starts on the 9th for his birthday on the 11th.
He said, Frank, you drunk again? No.
Nope,
Well,
still.
you are.
Still am.
Same one.
Oh, my goodness.
February 10th, what time? You You drinking in the morning too?
All day.
Okay.
1:30?
That's fine. That's a good time. We're accustomed to meeting at that
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Okay, 1:30. All right, February 10th at 1:30.
Fish workshop.
Right, and,
Mr. Johnson, is that good?
John, do you have like a name or a title for the workshop? Let's think about it, or do you have anything off the top of your head right now, or can you get us a title so we can put it on Facebook and maybe get it to Michael Allen on the radio?
I was looking at what you wrote down in the description of it, and I think we come up with something out of that.
Okay, well, let's see if we can, what's the Thursday, maybe by Monday or so, get something, kind of a title for the workshop. Something that, you know, would be catching. Okay?
You know, something about stop illegal dumping of fish and garbage.
Okay, all right,
That's basically what it is, right?
yeah. Okay then, very good. All right, so who wants to make a motion for February the 10th at 1:30 to have this workshop?
I make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have that motion, Keisha, by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Brown, for a February 10th workshop at 1:30 to develop a solution for the illegal dumping of fish waste and garbage at the Marine Street Riverwalk. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. All right, that's good. Okay, now we're up for the next one. Item 4, discussion of possible action regarding a cleanup Carabell week, and this is requested by Mr. Mark Melcher, and if you would come forward and offer to us your proposal. Okay, thank you.
Mark Melcher here, resident of Carabell. Happy New Year, Mayor,
Thank you.
City Commission, and staff.
Happy New Year.
Tonight I'm here to kind of speak on the possibility of having an annual spring or fall cleanup. And the benefits of this would be basically cleaning up the environment, limiting the number of property complaints and code enforcement issues, helping residents clean up neighborhoods that need some special attention, make the town of Carabell more appealing to others, and give a little bit more curb appeal to tourists that come into town to say, you know, I like this place. And the last thing would be to give residents here the pride and joy of having a little slice of paradise. Over my lifetime, I've worked with several small towns in developing plans for beautification and also cleanup programs. Programs that I've developed for collection sites that accept yard waste, appliances, furniture, hazardous waste, tires, and construction debris. When I lived in Kansas, I was a licensed collector and manager of hazardous waste for Northeast Kansas, so I know a lot about chemicals and the collection of it and what chemicals can do to the environment. So helping clean it up would be to advantage. What else would I say? Oh, last thing is, it'd be a pleasure for me to sit down with the staff and develop a plan if the commission would like to go forward with having a spring or fall cleanup. Thank you.
Okay, may I ask you if you were to develop a plan, if we agree with that, is spring too early for you at this point, or would you prefer fall, or would you prefer to do a fall and then maybe start back next year with a spring annually? You know, you'd have two.
I'm thinking maybe a fall cleanup, and that'd give you plenty of time to get the word out and let people know what's coming about. And spring is just around the corner. And get a little time out there, and I'd be happy to work with some residents and helping them clean up. We can work with the county or our collection contractor on how we want to get rid of these stuff. And you know, I mentioned tires, and I know there's a fee involved with tires if you're going to take it to the landfill, and that would be possible to put a fee on top of tires, you know. So it doesn't limit the cost on that stuff. And as far as hazardous waste goes, I'm not sure what the landfill practices are or what they take out there now or what, but there's a lot of it out there, and it'd be nice to clean it up.
The CRA has discussed briefly about having conducting an annual cleanup in the CRA district, which is it's about 1/3 of makeup of the city of Carabell square mileage. And so the CRA would have funds that could help subsidize this cleanup, not for the entire city, but it would help subsidize the cost if there was a cost to the general fund. And this wouldn't be funded by the airport; it's going to be funded by the general fund. So.
And this would be limited strictly to city residents, not anybody outside the city limits, not Franklin County. So just our little place of paradise.
Okay.
So.
And what you then are proposing is to develop a plan and then present that to staff, which would be Ms. Courtney and maybe the chief, and get
Probably
their
the
input.
road department. I
Yeah,
would think
streets and
would be
roads
great.
department, very good, thank you. And then get their input, maybe revise that and bring it back to us.
Certainly.
Okay, does that sound all right to you all?
Yes, I definitely would like more information. Had some experiences with trash. I'm sure everybody in here on this board has, but I'd definitely like more information.
Yeah, I was going to work up some stuff, but I wanted to first see if the commission is willing to go forward with it before I invest my time in this.
I'm interested, like I said, I want more information on it. From my standpoint, I'm interested in it from an encouragement and a voluntary basis throughout the city. I'm not real excited about being demanding on personal property, but I'm willing to look at it from my standpoint.
Okay.
Because if you've been in the business and you say you have, you know that thing can snowball.
Yeah.
My priority is at least to get the right-of-ways cleaned up.
Yeah.
Which is public property owned
Yes.
by all of us.
Yes.
And then somehow, I don't know, maybe we could reach out and, consult some people or find out if we have elderly that can't do some things and, try to start that way.
You could get people in certain areas that would volunteer their time to help that little community area.
Yeah.
Sure.
Almost like a neighborhood watch, but not.
Well,
Neighborhood
yeah.
cleanup.
I won't name no properties, but I know I've got one right down the road from me, so.
Okay, so
But that is helping Keisha with the complaints and stuff. Maybe if we get things cleaned up a little bit, it might help. So I will do some calling, and I can report back next month maybe.
Okay.
With some
Is that all right with
ideas
you
and-
all? Okay, you're not an advisory board at this point, but we'll let you report under the advisory board just to give you a space, and we won't have an
Okay.
agenda item. Is that all right with the commission?
Yes.
At
Sure.
this point?
Sure.
Okay, and then, do we need to have a motion? Do you all think we need to have a motion on this, or we'll just, let Mr. Mark, report back, and then maybe we'll make a motion the next go-round? Is that all right with everyone? We agree in principle on
Sure.
that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, okay, item 5, discussion and possible action on extension of contract for New River Landing. And did you have some information, Mr. Pascalo, for us on that, or
I did.
if you'll just bring your microphone a little closer?
The New River Landing Development individuals are requesting an extension on the existing contract through June the 15th of 2022. They spoke with Mr. Hartman. They advised that they would be funded by mid-March, and then we'll close out the project and begin building the single-family homes. So they're requesting the board, an action item for the board to vote to extend that deadline until June.
Until June, to June 15th?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So how do we feel about that?
I'll make a motion to extend it to June the
I'll
15th.
second.
Okay. Okay, so Ms. Keisha, that motion is by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Mathis, to extend the New River Landing purchase sales contract until June 15th, 2022. And that's by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner Mathis. Is there any other discussion?
Some questions, and I don't know if this applies here, so just let me know. But I know originally, when I first came on, we were talking about it being workforce housing. Do we know if that's still the plan, or if they're gonna do more of what Jordan's Bayou's doing?
What I can tell you is that there's planned to be 30 units, and Mr. Hartman and myself have talked to Mr. Shear, who is the developer, and he has told me and Mr. Hartman that 9 units will be unrestricted out of the 30. And I don't know what they're
Does that
paid.
mean they might sell them, or will they be for rent?
They would, all of them have to be rental because
Okay.
they're being, the loan is through the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. And those loans are very low to no interest, and they have caveats and requirements, and some of the requirements are rental ranges. The one out at Jordan Bayou has some HUD involved with it, and those are making those rentals lower. But this one is the Florida Housing Finance, and they will allow, at this point, 9 unrestricted. I did meet, this may change a little bit, at that Florida Rural Summit. I met the director of Florida Housing Finance. He asked me to come see him in his office. I explained to him that we have these projects going on, but because of the conditions and the requirements, we cannot get our workforce housing that make between 45 and 75,000 combined household income.
Right.
They can't qualify. I can go up, I can call him on the phone, talk to him on the phone. I can go up there and talk to him to see if we can get something changed for this, because we've got 72 units, low income, going in Apalachicola. We've got how many are unrestricted over here?
6, I believe.
6 out of 30.
Jordan Bayou, there's 6 unrestricted?
And there's 39 over here, so 6 out of that. And, you know, and Courtney and I have discussed it, we don't know where they're gonna come from. Do we have that, can we service that many?
No, we need workforce,
Yes.
true
Yes.
workforce housing.
But if we're extending this until June, either one of us can pull out, I think, at any time. That would give me time to call the executive director of the Florida Housing Finance and see if there's something that we can do to help us here. He wasn't flushing the toilet, was he?
No, I think he's checking his email.
Okay, that was,
Possible.
just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. So does that make a matter to you?
I was just curious because, you know, they keep changing their scope of work or whatever, so just trying to figure it out.
Okay. I think what the issue is that they're trying to get their funding from
Right.
Florida, yeah.
And I know their funding,
Yeah, and I think that
requires
comes in
low
waves or something. So, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then that motion carries, Keisha. And then, we have no old business. Do we have public comment?
I got,
Any-
Ms.
okay.
Tamra Allen.
Okay, Ms. Tamara.
Can you blow me back on the yes, ma'am. Did you give everybody else one already?
No, I gave them all to you.
Okay.
I didn't know what the protocol was.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Tamara Allen, and I'm here tonight as the president of the Carabell Historical Society, and I also run the Carabell History Museum. We have had numbers and numbers of people ask us if the city of Carabell was going to put up a sign that said that we're the birthplace of Baseball Hall of Fame member John Buck O'Neill. And as you all know, he was born here in 1911 and was a very famous Negro League player. He went over to he transitioned when Jackie Robinson went over to the White Leagues as a player. He transitioned as a manager and continued on for decades in that role, and later became an ambassador for baseball in general, but particularly in helping develop the museum out in that state that he lives in.
Illinois or somewhere, I can't
It's
remember.
the Kansas City Monarchs, so it's a Kansas City Museum of the Negro Leagues. But anyway, he was famous more so in his 80s. He became famous again for being the voice of the Negro League in Ken Burns' baseball specials. So you may remember him from that. But he was a outstanding baseball player by all the measures. And last month he was voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. And so there are a lot of people around town who keep asking me, is the city going to put up a city limits sign that says birthplace of Buck O'Neill? And so we would like to encourage the city to think about that. I totally made up this wording this afternoon just to show you the notion, but you go through many, many towns in Florida, and there's a sign that says home of Nigel, who played in the Super Bowl, and home of Miss Florida, whatever, and all that stuff. So I think I have found that since the sign got put up out at Kendrick Park about Buck O'Neill out there, because one of the softball field or the baseball field got called that, named after him particularly. People actually Google him, find out we have an exhibit about him at the museum, and stop. And then once they stop and get feet on the ground, they go eat lunch and they go to other places and stuff like that. So I think these kind of signs help encourage tourists to stop in Carabell. And so we'd like to encourage you to consider doing this. And I know that if the city decided they wanted to put them up at the city limits, it would need 3 signs, because we've got 3 city limits places. And then I'm sure Mr. Large can help us work through the DOT process of, I'm sure there's a proper sign size and color and so forth, depending on what it is. So, but we just wanted to encourage you to give some positive consideration to that, because people are really proud of him and proud of his affiliation with Carabell. So I think it would be a wonderful thing.
I think that we would need a motion for this, and I don't think it really, even though it's under public comment, and I don't normally allow motions under public comment, but really doesn't require due process, or, I think if the commission wants to move forward with this, we could have a motion for Courtney to work with Russell on seeing what we need to do on the DOT, and then also you'd have to contact Mr. Marone about on the 67. Would the commission like to move forward with this, or just have some look into it and report back to us next month?
I'll make a motion for the administrator to check into the details and report back.
I'll second.
Okay, and that's by Commissioner Melander, second by Commissioner Brown. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and that carries. And please bear in mind, I don't normally allow for the general public motions under public comment, but this one doesn't require due process.
And if there's anything I
Okay.
can do to help push that along, just let me know.
All right.
He will be inducted on July 24th. So we've gotten a lot of press coverage. The city of Carabell has already gotten a lot of press coverage because of this. So it would be just some more that we could get at that time. And,
Might be difficult to get it on the DOT before July 24th.
well, I was thinking that might be a problem.
Yeah,
But,
it could take years.
the other thing is, we're having a history talk at Sea Quarters on the 15th of the month, at 10 o'clock in the morning on the shipwrecks of Dog Island. And you're all welcome to come. We have a very dynamic speaker who is actually literally wrote the book on Dog Island history of shipwrecks. His dissertation is about that thick, and that's what it's about. So I think it's going to be a good one. And he's also the consultant on the grant that we're doing, the project to put up an exhibit about the shipwrecks of Dog Island.
Okay, I thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. All
Appreciate
right.
the opportunity.
Do we have other public comment? Okay, and then we have Ms. Sharon Glaze. And then Chester Butler as well.
I live in the ghetto, and I really live in the ghetto. And this is Carabell. There's only 2,500 people here in the city, and I don't understand why I pay taxes, I put an investment in, but I have no rights, and I don't understand that. Commissioner Mathis basically told me in May that hell would freeze over before we had code enforcement.
No, before I would vote for you as a damn code enforcer.
I love that
All right,
language
y'all,
coming from you.
please, everybody calm down.
Miss Commissioner Millender just said he is opposed to any kind of reprimand on the way that people live. So I want to talk about my week, just my week. I'm going to start from today and move backwards.
Okay, and 3 minutes.
I will.
Okay.
Today I saw a dog chained up in the back of a pickup truck. The people were home for the night. This is just down the street from Commissioner Mathis. The dog was chained up in the back of the truck for the night, and I called the police and asked them to go do a welfare check on them. In that particular house, it's a meth house where they now have put up a fence. There's campers there where they have their own meth head commune. It's just great. Last night my cameras caught from 1:30 in the morning until 4 o'clock, there were 13 cars speeding down past Commissioner Mathis's house to go to a dead-end road and then back out. I got them all on camera. They're all going to the same place. It's a dead-end road. Where are they going? Last week, my neighbor's dogs got out of the fence and they're trying to attack. I've already put up a hot wire on the top of my fence. We've reinforced it with wood on the bottom of the fence. I had to put in security cameras because they don't like it when you tell them to put their dogs up. So I put up a silk screen fence to hide the view, and their dogs now crawled under the, I have a 2-pound dog and an 11-pound dog. They have 90 and 100-pound dogs digging under the fence to come in my yard, which is chained in. And then when I call animal control, it takes like an hour to get there. An hour to get there. If my 2 little dogs who have their own doggy door, because I'm a homeowner, I pay money, and that's my right. They have a doggy door. They're allowed to go out in their own yard, but I can't let them go out alone because of the neighbor's dogs. They dug out twice in one day. As soon as animal control left, they came under my fence again. And one of them is vicious and wild, and the homeowner, or he's not an owner, said they can't even pet the dog. It's crazy. So now they've gotten rid of the dog because I think they were going to be fined. But do you know to get a dog, control of the dog, it has to take 4 offenses. You have to sign an affidavit. They have to fine them 4 times. Then it has to go to court. Or you can just go out and wait till the dog wants to bite you and shoot it in the head. Either way is not a really good option. We have, mattresses.
Okay, you have about 30 seconds.
Mattresses in the front yard, trash piled up. If you come by my house tonight, down the street from your house, you'll see an illegal trash fire. Mattresses and bags and bags and bags of trash. You keep avoiding the issue of any code enforcement. If she was freed up by having an actual code enforcement person, she would have more time to do the other things you're requiring of her. We need code enforcement. You act like we're babysitting. We're not babysitting, we're adults, and everybody has a right, including me.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, okay, I will say, if you suspect meth is going on, you need to go and meet with the chief and report to him. Okay, the chief though, as well, because it's in the city limits.
When I call the police, I've called the police about, there was a meth head across the street. He was living in a shed, peeing on a building.
All right.
Changing his pants in the front yard. And when I called the Carabell police, they don't want to do anything.
Stop her.
Okay, all right, okay, calm down. Calm
You're
down.
old and you're gonna go.
You're damn right, but
Yeah,
you're going
Okay,
to.
all right, y'all please be calm. And we did all get the email on the dogs, the same story that you just described. We got that, and did the chief go over there and check on that? Okay, so the chief went on that. All right, please calm down now.
I'm ethical.
Okay, no.
And I'm gonna make it all over Facebook.
All right, okay.
Famous.
You go right ahead.
All right, that's
fun.
please no outburst, please, y'all be calm. I like civility in my meetings, please. Is there, and Mr. Chester Butler, he's here to make a presentation to us as well.
He might be afraid to.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners.
Good
I was
evening.
beginning to feel like a back row Baptist back there for a minute. The last time
You
that
look like one.
The last time I came before you, I was commending the commission because y'all had taken an aggressive step, and instead of putting in a new tax, you did a fee-for-service thing, and I'm glad that's been successful for you. That's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. What I'm here to talk about tonight, I need to set the stage for you just a bit. About 45 years ago, I rolled down Highway 98 into Carabell, Florida. Now, my hair was not gray then. It was much longer, and I was driving a van. It didn't have flowers on it, but it was close for those of you that have lived through that period of time.
Yes, I do.
Now, the first person that I met was a guy by the name of Marvin.
Justice.
No,
Or
sir.
Marvin Braswell.
Marvin Braswell. And he and I had about a 20-minute conversation. And I will tell you that he was professional, he was courteous, and he was helpful. Now, the good news is that now, 45 years later, that tradition continues in Carabell's Police Department. My interaction with them since I moved here 7 years ago has been that they have been professional, they have been courteous, and they have been helpful and cooperative with the other agencies here. So I wanted to start the new year by saying thank you to the police department, and I hope this commission will join with me. Thank you to those officers that go out there every day and do a thankless job and a dangerous job. And I'd also like to thank their families, because you can't have a good officer on the street without a good person back home with taking care of the home fires. Now, when I left here, a few years later, I moved to another small town. That small town had a great police force, had great codes, as a matter of fact, had a great fire department, even though we had no water in the city. We had to buy the water. We prospered because of those things. Unfortunately, on May 6, 2002, an incident occurred that changed everybody's attitude between security and a small town. I have, in order to save town commissioners, you've got an email from me that give you some data that I picked up from the internet on what it's like to be in Carabell as compared to other cities, one of which was mentioned in the November board meeting, or the November commission meeting. The other thing that I have are 3 videos. They're videos of people that I know, police officers that I knew, that saved our town that day. All I'm asking for you tonight is that when you deliberate on matters of code, on matters of police protection, that you keep that data in the back of your head and you keep those images in the back of your head so that you can make the right decision. I thank you for your service. I hope you have a peaceful new year. Yes, sir.
I thank you very much for your compliments for the city police.
All right, thank you, Mr. Butler. Is there any other public comment? Okay, Mr. Christopherson, unbeknownst to me.
He has a speaker
Just a
card.
couple things.
Yeah, I see he has a speaker
On the
card.
same day as the shipwreck of Dog Island, the American Legion is going to be doing a little fundraiser in front of sea quarters, selling half chickens and $8 for a meal. So if you're going to go to the thing, stop by and get something to eat. And then on a second note, it's a little early for a happy birthday to Commissioner Mathis, but since I just found out today, happy birthday, Commissioner Mathis. And I would recommend to the board or to the city administrator, please put the fire department on watch that day because there's going to be a lot of candles on that cake.
Yeah, a lot of candles. All right, is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Okay, I just want to make a public comment. It just came to my mind as I'm watching these people here from the audience come up and participate. I want to commend and recognize Ms. Tamara as a super volunteer, and then certainly Mr. Tim Sullivan is a super volunteer, and he oversees 7, he's one of them, but an additional 6 members on that advisory board that meet diligently every month for the airport. And Mr. Tom Magnan and Mr. Mark Melcher, who is a volunteer and reaches out to every corner of this community, and I appreciate your service to the community, Mr. Tom and Mr. Mark. John Johnson, who's left, but he comes in to help us now with our issues that we have on the Marine Street area. Mr. Chester Butler has helped us in the past with developing our boat ramp fee ordinance, and in here again today advising us and giving his point of view on our police department. And he does help us sometimes when we have projects regarding environmental. He works behind the scenes on environmental projects, and he's working on now called Sons that we're going to be meeting with him, Mr. Butler, Courtney, and myself with a representative for stormwater mitigation in this area. And last but not least, I'm going to recognize my husband, Greg, who is also a super volunteer. He has done a countless work for the city of Carabell and for the Legion and for Camp Gordon Johnston, and he'll do a little touch here and there for the Lighthouse, the Lantern Fest, the History Museum. And so I just want you all to know that this room tonight is filled with people that love Carabell and want to help us help Carabell, and we need to recognize them and keep them in our prayers. I beg your pardon?
We pay them. We pay them for nothing.
The volunteers?
No, the commissioners.
Oh, okay. Now, the commissioners are not volunteers. You know, we're...
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I misunderstood because I'm angry, but we pay them and we get nothing for what? They're so afraid of not being reelected that they don't take any action on anything unless it's the old boys club.
Okay.
But, you know,
All right,
people
but
that-
please, no more outbursts, okay? You know, please.
Mayor,
Because, yes.
as I've stated in the past with our volunteers, and I continue to do so, their admiration, so I'll echo what you just said, and that my admiration to all the volunteers for the city of Carabell. And I've said it in the past, and I continue to say it again.
And I thank you all for coming here and taking your time off and coming here and trying to and wanting to help the city that you live in and that you all love. And so with that, is there any other public comment
Frank?
that wants to come up to the
Make a
podium?
To adjourn.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Mathis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion carries. All right.